Hello and welcome. You're watching News Central Television. I am Judith TV. Here are the stories making headlines beyond the continent. And we begin in the Middle East, where residents in Damascus reported hearing loud explosions early hours of Tuesday following a series of Israeli airstrikes across Syria after the fall of President Bashar al-Assad's government. According to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, Israel has conducted around 250 strikes since Sunday, targeting key military sites, including airports, radars, weapons depots, and research centers. Near Latakia, strikes damaged naval ships and air defense facilities, while installations in and around Damascus were also hit. Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar has described the deployment of troops to the Golan Heights as a limited and temporary step for security reasons. The observatory claims that these strikes are targeted to destroy the military capabilities of Assad's former regime as Syria undergoes significant political shifts. In the meantime, Turkish President, and that's Recep Tayyip Erdogan, declared that the Syrian people have destroyed a system of oppression following the overthrow of President Bashar al-Assad. Speaking at the AK party meeting, he cautioned potential exploiters of the situation, emphasizing that Turkey has made significant efforts to bring Syria to its current state. In response to the surge of refugees returning to Syria, Interior Minister Ali Lakia confirmed Turkey has expanded its border crossing facilities. Turkish president also pledged to reopen a crossing on the western border closed since 2013 to ease the traffic of refugees heading back. Turkey shares a 900-kilometer border with Syria.
Suriye halkı 10 yıllardır süren bir zulüm düzenini yıkarak özgürlüğüne, hakkına, hukukuna, geleceğine sahip çıktığı asil bir kıyamı elhamdülillah zaferle taçlandırmıştır. İnşallah ülkenin diğer kısımlarındaki DAEŞ ve PKK, PYD gibi terör örgütlerinin de en kısa sürede başı ezilecektir. Bu vesileyle Suriye topraklarına gözünü diken herkese şu hatırlatmayı yapmakta fayda görüyorum. Türkiye olarak Suriye'nin bugünkü seviyesine gelmesi konusunda çok büyük fedakarlıklarda bulunduk, çok büyük gayretler gösterdik.
The United Nations Special Envoy for Syria, Geir Pedersen, is urging armed groups in Syria to turn their promises into action. This comes after Syrian President Bashar al-Assad was forced to flee following a rebel offensive led by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS. Pedersen notes that while HTS has sent messages of unity and inclusivity, it's crucial that these words are backed by actions on the ground. The envoy acknowledges that HTS's past links to al-Qaeda are a complicating factor, but stresses the importance of viewing the group through the lenses of the civil war.
And the realities so far is that the HTS and also the other armed groups have been sending good messages to the Syrian people. They have been sending messages of unity, of inclusiveness, and frankly speaking, also we have seen in Aleppo and in Hama, we have also seen, reassuring things on the ground. But as I stated at the very beginning, there have also been challenges. On Sunday, in particularly in Damascus, there were lootings, there were robberies, there were, the invasion of public buildings, of private homes. But this seems to have stopped, and that is a good thing. But what we need now to see is, of course, that the good statements and what we have seen on the ground at the beginning, that this is now followed up in practice in the days and the weeks.
The UN Special Envoy for Syria, Geir Geir Pedersen has called on Israel to halt its military movements and airstrikes inside Syrian territory during a press conference on Tuesday. This comes days after the fall of President Bashar al-Assad, and Pedersen emphasized that Israeli bombardments into Syria need to stop to ensure stability and peace in the region, highlighting the escalating tensions and the importance of preventing further conflict.
And then a very troubling development. We are continuing to see Israeli movements and bombardments into Syrian territory. This needs to stop.
Israel's Defense Minister Israel Katz has confirmed that the Israeli military launched overnight strikes destroying several Syrian naval vessels. Katz stated that the IDF has been operating in Syria to target and destroy strategic capabilities that pose a threat to Israel. The Navy's operation aimed to eliminate the Syrian fleet, which was achieved with great success, according to Katz. Photographs from the port of Latakia show sunken Osa-class missile boats with visible P-15M Tamart launchers. Katz also warned Syria's new rulers not to follow oust President Bashar Assad's path.
כדי לפגוע ולהשמיד יכולות אסטרטגיות שמאיימות על מדינת ישראל. חיל הים פעל הלילה להשמדת הצי הסורי ובהצלחה רבה. אני מזהיר מכאן את מנהיגי המורדים בסוריה. מי שילך בדרכו של אסד יסיים כמו אסד. לא נאפשר לישות טרור אסלאמית קיצונית לפעול נגד ישראל מעבר לגבולה ותוך סיכון אזרחיה. נעשה כל מה שנדרש כדי להסיר את האיום. הנחיתי, יחד עם ראש הממשלה את צה"ל, להקים מרחב הגנה סטרילי מנשק ומאיומי טרור בדרום סוריה, על מנת למנוע התבססות והתארגנות של הטרור בסוריה.
Qatari officials have established communication with Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the Islamist group that led the ouster of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. This development comes after Qatar hosted meetings with Russian, Iranian, Turkish, and Arab officials on Syria. The Qatari Foreign Ministry has confirmed that they are in contact with various groups in Syria, aiming to maintain calm and preserve public institutions during the transition period. Qatar's Syrian embassy, open to opposition groups during the rebellion, is now seen as the first embassy of the new reality in Syria.
منفتحون على اتصال مع الجميع. طبعا اولا بالنسبه للاتصالات المباشره نحن اتصالاتنا مفتوحه مع الاشقاء في سوريا بمختلف اطيافهم وكذلك يعني مع الاطراف الاقليميه والدوليه، ومنذ زمن طويل حقيقه اتصالاتنا مستمره مع الاشقاء في المعارضه. كما تعلمون ان السفاره هنا في سوريا هي سفاره تمثل المعارضه، وهذه الاتصالات ما زالت مستمره عبر هذه القنوات السياسية، ونحن منفتحون على الاتصال مع الجميع.
Now to discuss this further, I'm joined by Godson Azu, who's a global affairs analyst. Godson, many thanks for doing this with us. Let me start by asking how you assess Turkey's role in shaping the future of Syria, especially in light of this president's recent statements about the Syrian people overthrowing Assad's regime.
Much for having me this evening. It's my great pleasure. It's important that the president of Turkey begin to emphasize a very strong view with regards to the turn of events in Syria. We all know that Erdogan and Turkey supported the Syrian Democratic Front, who were taking control of the northern part of Syria during the conflict in Syria, and having known that whatever happens in the north of Syria is going to boil over into a major crisis in Turkey with regards to the Kurdish people that also inhabit the part of northern Syria, who were part of the forces fighting for the liberation of Syrian people from the assisted President Assad. But I mean, it was a good idea that the Turkish government backed the organization in order to be on the safe side, what I may call the protectionist agenda, because all they wanted was to make sure that whoever controls the northern axis of Syria are able to curtail the Kurdish ethnic groups within the northern axis of Syria, in order not to infiltrate and be part of the other Kurdish fractions that are in Turkey that have been having a conflict, resistant conflict with the Turkish government for a while now. And so I believe that Erdogan is playing a vital role to ensure that whatever government that comes in place in Syria, whatever new administration that comes in place in Syria, he is able to ensure, or is being given a good assurance that the Kurdish faction in northern Syria will not be allowed to gain what they are looking for at the moment, self-determination and independent of the Kurdish people from the northern axis of Syria, which, if it happens, is going to be a very big issue for Erdogan and the Turkish people, because that will enable the Kurdish people to have a very strong platform to engage the absolute formation of a country of the Kurdish people within that axis of the north of Syria and the north part of Turkey. And so Erdogan is he came into the crisis at an early stage to ensure that there is a very good diplomacy, there is a good understanding between the support that Turkey is giving to this group of people, and the outcome of it to be in the greatest interest of the Turkish people and the Turkish government.
Let's quickly talk about, I mean, in the context of just this Syrian conflict and the rise of groups that we're seeing and the likes of HTS, that's the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. What is your view on the international community's response so far to these armed groups, particularly giving HTS's past links to al-Qaeda? How should the UN approach these factions just moving forward?
I believe that the UN will always play its role. We understand that there is two forms of ideologies and the global politics. There's the liberal thinkers and there's the realist thinkers. The liberal thinkers always have that confidence that they can bring about collective cooperation. They can bring about peace and harmony through dialogue and engagement, and using institutions to bridge the gap between conflicting interest groups and bodies, and identifying these conflicting interest groups, whether they be revolutionaries, whether they be nationalists, whether they be dictators for change of governance, whether they be terrorists. The essence of the United Nations as a liberal order is to ensure that they approach every aspect of this segment of actors, the non-government actors, to give them some sense of belonging, give them some sense of assurance that whatever they tend to do or they plan to do, if it is not for the greater interest and the benefit of the people they are representing, then they need to rethink about what they're about to do. It's different from what the realists are thinking. The realists believe that this state-centric position of governance at the global level is the answer to humanity. And that is the problem we're going to be facing when Donald Trump comes into power by January, because Donald Trump is one of the major realist thinkers of today, and his position about global governance, his position about institutional arrangement is not the kind of principles he believes in his style of governance. And so his position by January may actually impact the way forward with what is happening in the Middle East.
Right.
Between Syria.
Let's leave the U.S. for now and wait to see what happens. But I have to bring in Israel this time around. With his recent strikes on Syrian naval vessels, it's been framed as a response to strategic threats. What do you think about the broader implications of these military actions are for Israel's security and its relations to Syria, Turkey, and other regional actors? Very quickly, because we're out of time.
It's important to know that the role that Israel has played in the last couple of months or years with the strikes in Gaza, the strikes in Hezbollah in Lebanon, and the strikes against positional strategic positions of Iran in Syria has brought about the gap that enabled the fractional bodies in Syria to strike without much noticed actions or reactions globally. And so indirectly, Israel played a major role for the achievement of what was achieved in Syria last Sunday. And obviously, in order to ensure that Israel, in its part, are well protected, the protectionist principle comes in. Because if you look at the relationship between Syria and Israel in reference to the Golan Heights, there is need for Israel to be very conscious of what happens next with a situation where one is not very much assured of what kind of government comes in place in Syria. And if the wrong administration or the wrong leadership comes into play in Syria, what would be the after effect? What would be the impact to Israel if they are not conscious of the security threats available in Syria at the moment? We all know that Syria was a dumping ground for Iran's weapons, chemical weapons, ammunitions, and all of that. And so the most important thing that Israel needed to do at this moment of the vacuum is to preempt a strike, a preemptive strike even when you are not sure what will happen, but strike.
Yeah, I mean, but Godson, it now begs to ask the question of whether or not this will even escalate more tensions in the Middle East. Well, that we wait to see what happens in the coming days. But Godson, we have to pin this conversation for now. Many thanks for taking out the time to have the discussion with us. Godson, as who is a global affairs analyst, just give us a bit of insight on the Syria after ousting President al-Assad. We're going to a short break. When we return, we tell you that Iraq marks victory over Islamic State rebels after the break. And we continue with the Middle East as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has testified in court for the first time in his corruption case. Netanyahu, who faces charges of bribery, fraud, and breach of public trust, is the first sitting Israeli Prime Minister to face a criminal trial. The court session was held in an underground chamber for security reasons, with protesters and supporters gathering outside. Netanyahu supporters chanted, "Netanyahu, the people support you," while protesters chanted, "Bibi to prison." Netanyahu had promised to testify, saying he is not running away. Meanwhile, Israel's far-right national security minister, and that's Itamar Ben-Gvir, has reiterated his call for the dismissal of the Attorney General following his long-standing criticism of the legal proceedings against Netanyahu. Itamar Ben-Gvir made the statement in court during Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's corruption trial on Tuesday. His comments came amidst the ongoing trial in which Netanyahu faces charges of bribery, fraud, and breach of public trust. Iraq is celebrating a major milestone today, marking the anniversary of its victory over Islamic State forces. The country's army, Ashad al-Shaabi, and police force are holding parades in Baghdad and Mosul to commemorate the occasion. Iraq declared victory over IS, and that's the Islamic State, in late 2017 after a grueling 3-year battle that saw the jihadists seize large parts of the country. The conflict had a devastating impact on Iraq, with thousands of people killed and many more displaced. Today's parades are a testament to the country's resilience and determination to rebuild.
اليوم التاريخي وهذا الاستعراض الحافل هو رسالة أمن واطمئنان لكل أهالي محافظة نينوى ولضبط الحدود مع سوريا، وإنما يعبر عن جاهزية قواتنا الأمنية وقوة السلاح وتلاحم البطولي بين كل صنوف قواتنا الأمنية ومواطنينا.
اليوم نحن في 2024 وليس في 2014. اليوم قواتنا الأمنية تمرست في قتال عصابات داعش وانتصرت وحققت الانتصار، وسوف تحافظ على الانتصار، وإن قواتنا على أبة الاستعداد لأي طارئ يهدد أمن البلد، وكلنا جنود في الدفاع.
And off to Asia, where China is conducting its largest maritime mobilization around Taiwan in years, with nearly 90 naval and Coast Guard ships deployed in the waters along the first island chain. Taiwan's defense ministry says it's detected 47 Chinese aircraft near the island, as authorities said dozens of Chinese warships and other vessels were deployed around the island in one of China's biggest ever military exercises. This move comes after Taiwanese president's recent visit to the United States, which sparked fury from Beijing. Taiwanese forces are on high alert, anticipating Beijing's People's Liberation Army to stage war games in response. The U.S. has expressed concern, with Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin stating that China's coercive behavior threatens regional stability. Meanwhile, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has warned that China's coercive behavior poses a significant threat to regional stability. Speaking in Tokyo, Austin expressed concerns over China's maritime mobilization around Taiwan, which he described as the largest in years. He also criticized Russia's actions in Ukraine and North Korea's support for Moscow's war efforts. Austin reaffirmed the U.S. commitment to Japan and South Korea, stating that the U.S.-Japan alliance has never been stronger. The defense secretary's comments come as tensions between China and Taiwan continue to escalate, with Beijing increasing its military presence around the self-ruled island. And on to South America, where Argentina's President Javier Milei is celebrating his first year in office, boasting of significant economic achievements. Milei, an ultra-liberal economist, took office on December 10th last year, promising to implement drastic measures to address the country's economic woes. He successfully reduced inflation from 25.5% to 2.7% and achieved a fiscal surplus for the first time in a decade. However, these accomplishments came at a cost, with over 30,000 public sector jobs eliminated and a shock that has deeply impacted Argentinians' livelihoods. Now, despite controversy, Milei maintains a stable support base with around 45% positive image. And that's all we can take from beyond the continent. Now, remember that you can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422 or on Star Times channel 274. You can find us on Avo TV, or better yet, stream us live on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Judith, TV. Bye for now.